The real battle isn't out there. It's in here. It's the voice that tells you to quit. The voice that says you've done enough. The voice that convinces you your limit is real. But here's the truth. That limit is a lie. And the second you break past it, you meet a version of yourself you didn't even know existed. Today, I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to challenge you. Standing. The war for your future starts in your mind, and you decide if you win or lose. The battle you face each day doesn't start when you get out of bed. It starts the moment your eyes open and your mind begins to speak. Standing. There's a voice in your head that will try to sell you on comfort, that will negotiate with you to take it easy, to stay where it's safe and warm. It will say, standing, you've done enough, before you've even started. That voice is the gatekeeper to your potential, and it's not there to help you. It's there to test you. And the world outside may throw obstacles, but the most dangerous battles are the invisible ones within. When you wake up tired, it's not your body that's tired. It's your mind's resistance to effort. When you hesitate, standing, it's not because you're incapable. It's because your thoughts are trying to protect you from the discomfort of growth. The hardest war is not against the weight in the distance or the hours. It's against the part of you that would rather avoid pain. If you win that fight before you take a single step, the rest of the day becomes a proving ground. Master the inner war, and the outer battles will feel like child's play. When you step out to face the day, you're not competing against other people. You're competing against the version of you that's willing to settle. That version is persuasive, standing, and it speaks in a language you know well, because it uses your own fears and doubts as its ammunition. It reminds you of past failures to keep you from taking the next step. It plays back moments where you fell short, hoping you'll choose not to try again. But here's the truth. Every time you surrender to that voice, you strengthen it. Standing. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you give it more control. On the other hand, every time you act in defiance of it, you chip away at its power. The decision to fight is made in those small, invisible moments, the ones no one sees. Win there, and you won't just change your results. You'll change your entire identity. Think about it. Your body can endure more than your mind believes. The mind's first instinct is survival, not achievement. It wants to shield you from pain, exhaustion, rejection, and failure. It tells you to stop when the work gets heavy or when the goal feels far away. But those are the exact moments that determine your growth. The difference between the person who wins and the one who doesn't is not talent. It's the willingness to push forward when the mind says stop. Standing. Every great breakthrough begins in that uncomfortable place where the fight gets real. If you learn to stand your ground there, you gain access to a part of yourself you've never met before. That's where resilience is built, where courage is forged, and where strength is born. Most people lose the fight before it even begins because they believe the mind's first story. That story says, you're tired, you've done enough, someone else is better. Standing. You'll fail anyway. It's a script designed to keep you ordinary. The tragedy is, it's so convincing that you might not even question it. But you must. Standing, you have to recognize that the mind's voice is not always truth. It's often a reflection of fear, of conditioning, of limits you didn't choose. Once you understand this, you stop taking its first answer as final. You begin to test it. You say, maybe I'm not done. Maybe I can go one more round. Maybe I'm not at my limit. That's the spark that turns the tide in your favor. 10. Winning the mental battle doesn't mean the negative voice disappears. It means you've trained yourself to respond differently. You start expecting the resistance. Standing. You know it will be there, whispering excuses, urging you to turn back. Instead of negotiating with it, you act in spite of it. This is where discipline takes over. Standing. Discipline is the bridge between the mind's resistance and the reality you want to create. It's what allows you to keep moving, even when you feel like quitting. And the more you practice, the stronger you get, not just in action, but in mindset. Over time, the voice doesn't stop talking, but it stops winning. The real battle is not in the physical effort. It's in the commitment to start and then to keep going when the mind screams for relief. When you pick up the weight, lace up your shoes, or take the first step towards something difficult, the hardest part is already behind you. It's the part where you overcame the voice that said, "Don't even bother." People think strength is built in the gym, on the track, or in the grind of long hours, but that's only half the truth. The real strength is built in those silent moments when you decide to move forward in defiance of your own doubts. The world will see the results standing, but only you will know the war you had to win to make them happen. Every person has two versions of themselves, the one they are and the one they could be. The gap between those two versions is closed or widened by the battles fought in the mind. Each day, you either make deposits into your future by pushing through resistance, or you make withdrawals by surrendering to it. That's why you can't afford to lose that battle. Not if you want to see what you're truly capable of. When you understand that your greatest enemy is not out there but in here, you stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for the perfect time, standing. You take ownership of the fight and start showing up with intent even when you don't feel ready, especially when you don't feel ready. Resistance in the mind often shows up disguised as logic. It will give you reasons that sound sensible. Rest today and start fresh tomorrow. Or, you deserve a break after all you've done. But deep down, you know the difference between necessary rest and convenient escape. That's why awareness is critical. You have to catch yourself in the act of giving in. In those moments, standing, you need to replace thought with action, because action is the only language the mind respects. Once you move, even in the smallest way, standing, you've declared to yourself that you're still in the fight. That declaration matters more than the scale of the task. The truth is, the mind will never completely stop trying to protect you from the unknown. But protection is not what you need if you want to grow. You need exposure. Exposure to hard things. Exposure to situations where quitting is tempting but not chosen. Exposure to moments where you doubt yourself but keep going anyway. Every time you endure one of those moments, you're rewiring your mental framework. You're teaching yourself that discomfort isn't danger, that pain isn't final, and that fear isn't a reason to stop standing. That's how the battlefield in your head begins to change in your favor. And once you realize you can win there, something shifts permanently. You stop being afraid of the hard days. You stop avoiding the uphill climb. You begin to see obstacles as training grounds rather than barriers. You start to live differently, not because the outside world changed, but because you changed the way you meet it, standing. The victories you stack in your mind bleed into every area of life. You carry them with you into your relationships, your career, your dreams. Standing, you understand that the real battle will always start and end in the same place, inside your head. And that's exactly why you're ready for it. Pain is not the enemy, it's the invitation. Standing, every moment you step into discomfort, you're building something inside you that can't be taken away. Just like hands develop calluses from friction and pressure, the mind develops its own armor when it's exposed to consistent challenge. You don't get mentally stronger by avoiding hard things. You get stronger by facing them repeatedly. The first time it hurts, it feels unbearable. The second time, you notice it's still hard, but you last longer. Over time, the pain becomes less threatening and your confidence grows. You start to realize that pain is not punishment. It's preparation. It's shaping you into someone who can handle more than you ever thought possible. Discipline is the process of showing up when it's inconvenient, when it's cold, when you're tired, and when no one is watching. Most people wait for motivation. But motivation is unreliable. It's built on how you feel. Discipline is built on a decision. It's the choice to do the work regardless of mood or circumstance. Every time you honor that choice, you thicken the armor on your mind. You learn to act without permission from your emotions. You stop negotiating with yourself about whether you should keep going. This is the callousing process. It's slow, it's uncomfortable, and it's deliberate. but it's the only way to ensure that quitting is no longer your default response when things get hard. You don't rise to the occasion under pressure. You fall to the level of your training. That's why the way you practice when no one is around matters more than what you do in the spotlight. If you only show up on the days you feel like it, you'll never be ready for the moments that demand your best when you feel your worst. Discipline isn't built on big, dramatic acts. It's built in the small, consistent choices that stack up over time. These are the moments that no one sees, but they shape everything others eventually admire. When the pressure comes, standing. You don't suddenly become strong. You reveal the strength you've been building all along. Discomfort is a language most people never learn to speak because they avoid it at every turn. But if you're willing to immerse yourself in it and you start to understand its value, discomfort tells you where your growth lies. It points out the weak spots, the limits, the areas you've been protecting. By leaning into it, standing, you're telling yourself that you're ready to do the work of breaking those limits down. This isn't about suffering for suffering's sake. It's about rewiring your mind so the hard moments no longer scare you. Instead, they become familiar terrain, standing, and that familiarity is power. The mind loves comfort because comfort feels safe, but safety can become a prison. Every day you choose comfort over discipline. Standing, the walls of that prison get thicker. The only way to break out is to do something that makes you uncomfortable on purpose. It might be physical, it might be mental, but it has to be intentional. Each time you do, you're sending a message to yourself. I can handle more than this. That message builds over time until it becomes your identity. And when your identity changes, your limits change with it. You have to stop looking at discipline as punishment. Discipline is the most powerful form of self-respect you can show yourself. Misunderstanding. It's you proving that your future matters more than your present comfort. Every act of discipline is a vote for the person you want to become. And the beautiful thing is, standing, those votes compound. Over weeks, months, and years, they turn into a mind so resilient that giving up feels unnatural. Standing, you stop seeking the easy route because you've trained yourself to find pride in the harder path. The callousing process isn't supposed to feel good. If it does, it's not working. Growth happens in the moments when you'd rather be anywhere else but still choose to stay. It happens when the weight feels too heavy, the run feels too long, or the project feels impossible, but you keep going anyway. This is how you earn mental armor, not by talking about it, but by enduring it. And with each repetition, you're carving a new pattern into your mind, one that says, standing, I finish what I start. That pattern is what makes you unstoppable when the pressure is on. Most people think they need to feel ready before they begin. But readiness is a myth. You don't get ready by thinking. You get ready by doing. Action is what creates the mindset, not the other way around. The first steps are always the hardest because you have no momentum. But once you start moving, discipline kicks in. The more you practice taking action without hesitation, the less power your excuses have over you. You start to move automatically toward the work instead of away from it. That shift is what turns effort into identity. The real reward of discipline and mental callousing isn't just achieving a goal. It's becoming the kind of person who doesn't need the goal to keep going. Standing. You're no longer chasing something to prove yourself. You're proving yourself every day through the act of showing up, standing. That's when you realize that the process is the prize. The pride comes not from the finish line, but from the countless mornings, nights, and moments you chose the harder way, standing. The calloused mind is not about being unfeeling. It's about being unshakable. And over time, that unshakable mindset bleeds into every area of your life, standing. Challenges that used to intimidate you now feel like opportunities. Obstacles that once made you hesitate now make you lean forward. And you stop fearing the hard things because you know they're shaping you into someone stronger. The discipline that built your mind starts to build your future, and one decision at a time, standing. And that's when you understand that the real gift of all the discomfort wasn't just toughness. It was freedom. What you think is your limit is often nothing more than a safety mechanism built into your mind. Standing, the human body is capable of enduring far more than most people ever allow themselves to experience. When fatigue sets in, it's not because you've reached the end. It's because your mind is trying to protect you from going further. This protection is rooted in comfort, not in truth. Most people never push past this threshold, and so they never discover what they're really made of. The wall you hit is an illusion. Standing, a line your mind draws to keep you from exploring your potential. The moment you recognize that it's not the finish line, but a checkpoint, everything changes. That's when you have to tell yourself, this is where the real work begins. The so-called limit is a trick, a defense mechanism designed to make you quit before you break. But the reality is, you're nowhere close to breaking. You're simply entering the zone where growth happens. This is where most people stop, and it's why they stay the same. Pushing past that point is uncomfortable, sometimes painful, but that's exactly why it's powerful. Standing, every step beyond it is a step toward the version of you that most people will never meet. You don't find this version in the easy miles, the lightweight standing, or the short days. You find it in the moments you wanted to stop but didn't. That's when you discover that your limits were never real, just beliefs waiting to be shattered. When you believe the first signal your mind sends, you cheat yourself out of the truth. That truth is that you still have more to give, more energy, more fight, more endurance. It's hidden behind the discomfort that tells you to stop. Standing, you have to understand that the signal to quit is not a command. It's an invitation to prove to yourself that you're stronger than the signal. Every time you push beyond it, standing, you create new evidence for your potential. And the more evidence you have, the harder it is for your mind to convince you to quit in the future. You build a library of moments where you went further than you thought possible. Think of your limit as a locked door. The first time you approach it, you assume it's the end of the hallway. But if you have the courage to push on the door, you'll find it opens to another room, another hallway, another opportunity to grow. The problem is that most people never touch the door. They turn around as soon as they see it. That's why life feels small for so many. They live inside the boundaries their mind has drawn without realizing the world beyond those boundaries is where their real strength lies. If you're willing to push, you'll see that what you thought was the edge was just the beginning. Standing, there's a powerful shift that happens when you stop seeing your limit as a wall and start seeing it as a test. Suddenly, you stop avoiding it and start seeking it. You begin to understand that the discomfort, the fatigue, and the doubt are not signs of failure. They're signs of progress. You start chasing that feeling instead of running from it, because you know that on the other side of it lies the growth you can't get any other way. Standing, the average person will never experience this because they've trained themselves to stop the second things get hard. But you can train yourself to see difficulty as the doorway to the person you want to become. Standing, most people are convinced they're giving their all when they've only tapped into a fraction of their capacity. That's why they plateau, why they get stuck, and why they feel unfulfilled. They've mistaken the 40% mark for 100%. When you realize this, you can't unsee it. Standing, it becomes impossible to stop at the first sign of struggle because you know there's more inside you. And once you experience breaking through that mental ceiling, you crave it. You start to see pain as feedback, as proof that you're in the right place. You stop asking, how can I make this easier? And start asking, standing, how much further can I go? The danger of accepting your first limit is that it becomes a habit. Every time you stop at that point, you're reinforcing the idea that it's the end. Over weeks, months, and years, that idea hardens into identity. You start to believe you're someone who just can't go further, when in reality, you've simply chosen not to. Breaking that habit starts with one decision to keep going when every part of you wants to stop. That decision feels small in the moment, but it's the crack in the wall that eventually brings the whole thing down. And once it's down, you see how much more room there is to grow. every extra rep, standing every extra minute, every extra mile after you think you're done is where the magic happens. It's not about perfection. It's about proving that your current definition of done is wrong. Understanding. This is the place where you learn you don't need to feel ready to keep moving. You learn that discomfort won't kill you standing, and that fatigue is often a lie your mind tells to make you quit. You discover that most of your barriers are mental, not physical. And once you've experienced that first standing, you become addicted to finding and breaking the next barrier. That's how you keep evolving. The world will try to convince you that you're already at your best standing. People will tell you you're working too hard, pushing too far, asking too much of yourself. They'll say it's time to slow down, to be satisfied, to stop chasing more standing. But they're only speaking from their own limits, not yours. Your journey is not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about showing yourself that your so-called limit was just the beginning. And the only way to know that for sure is to keep going when it would be easier to stop standing. And when you've pushed through enough false limits, you start to understand the truth. You will never find your real limit because every time you approach it, it moves. It shifts further away, daring you to chase it again. This is what keeps you alive, keeps you sharp, keeps you from falling into the trap of comfort. Standing. You realize that life isn't about reaching some final level of strength or endurance. It's about constantly expanding the boundaries of what you believe is possible. And that expansion only happens when you refuse to let the first sign of struggle be the end. You can't always control what happens around you, but you can always control what happens within you. Life will throw storms you never saw coming, and you won't have the luxury of choosing the timing. You won't get to decide who challenges you, who doubts you, or who leaves you when you need them most. But you do get to decide how you respond, standing. You get to decide whether you crumble or stand tall. You get to decide whether you let the hit break you or build you, standing. A strong mind doesn't wait for the world to be kind. It prepares for the world to be cruel. It knows that the real control comes from mastering your reactions, standing, not your conditions. And once you learn that, nothing outside you can truly own you. When life tests you, it's not testing your comfort, it's testing your capacity. Challenges don't care about your schedule, your mood, or your level of readiness. They show up uninvited and demand an answer. And the truth is, standing, you've already trained for that answer long before the test arrives. Every small act of discipline, every moment you pushed when it didn't matter, then was a rehearsal for the big moments. A strong mind treats those daily choices like training for war. It doesn't wait for the battle to start preparing. It sharpens itself in advance. And when the pressure comes, it's ready not because it's fearless standing, but because it's unshakable. The difference between someone who survives and someone who thrives is the ability to turn pain into purpose. Tending pain on its own will crush you. It needs direction. A strong mind doesn't just endure pain, it channels it. It asks, what can I build from this? What can I learn? How can I use this to become more? This shift transforms every setback into a tool instead of a trap. You stop seeing hard times as something happening to you and start seeing them as something happening for you. That doesn't make the struggle easier. It makes it meaningful, and meaning will take you further than comfort ever could. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in the mind, but it's also one of the most misunderstood. Most people think fear is a stop sign when it's really just a warning light. It's telling you that you're entering territory where you can grow. A strong mind doesn't eliminate fear, it reframes it. It asks, standing, what if this fear is proof that I'm exactly where I should be? This changes everything. Suddenly fear becomes fuel. You stop running from it and start running with it. And every time you face it, you realize it's never as powerful as you imagined. Setbacks are not signals to turn back. They're checkpoints to see if you're serious. Standing, a strong mind expects them and refuses to be surprised when they appear. It understands that every goal worth reaching comes with resistance, and that resistance is part of the path, not a deviation from it. Most people quit when the road gets messy because they mistake difficulty for impossibility. But a strong mind knows the difference. It sees obstacles as invitations to adapt, to dig deeper, to find another way forward. This is how you keep moving when others stop, by seeing the problem as part of the process. Owning your mind means refusing to give away your power. Too often, people let the world dictate how they feel, think, and act. They hand over control to opinions, circumstances, and temporary emotions. But the moment you reclaim that control, you stop being a passenger in your own life. You start making decisions from a place of strength, not reaction. You stop chasing external validation because you know your worth doesn't come from approval. And once you build that kind of independence, it's understanding, you become immune to the noise that once distracted you. Resilience is built in the moments when quitting seems reasonable. Anyone can keep going when things are smooth sailing, but it's what you do in the chaos that defines you. The strong mind treats chaos like training. It uses it to get sharper, faster, and stronger. It knows that comfort doesn't prepare you for storms, but storms prepare you for life. So instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" it asks, "What is this teaching me?" That question keeps you moving forward when everyone else is stuck looking backward. And that forward motion is the key to outlasting anything. A strong mind turns choices into commitments. Once it says yes, it means yes, no matter how it feels later. Standing. This consistency is what separates those who dabble from those who dominate. Emotions fluctuate, motivation fades, but commitment is a promise you make to yourself and refuse to break. This doesn't mean you'll never struggle. It means you'll show up through the struggle. And when you stack enough days of honoring your word, you build an identity that no amount of doubt can shake. Standing, that identity becomes the foundation you stand on for the rest of your life. Life doesn't get easier, you get stronger. You stop hoping for a lighter load and start working for a stronger back. The strong mind doesn't waste energy wishing the world would change. It uses its energy to adapt, adjust, and keep moving. It knows that the environment won't always be in its favor, but the inner environment can be fortified to handle whatever comes. And over time, you begin to see that this strength isn't just for survival, it's for creation. It allows you to build a life you're proud of, even in the face of constant challenges. In the end, mastering your mind is mastering your life. When you own your thoughts, you own your actions. When you own your actions, you own your results. Standing. And when you own your results, you own your future. The storms will still come, the obstacles will still appear, and the world will still try to push you off course. But you'll no longer be at the mercy of it all. You'll be the constant in the chaos. And that is the kind of strength no one can take away from you.